Well, then, it's time for the review of what's making the headlines in papers this morning. Well, Dr. Comfort is on a break today. Dr. Constance is on a break today. So we'll be bringing in Igo Akerega, a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Thanks for joining us, Igo.
Good morning.
All right, so today we start with the Punch. Very interesting headlines there. Well, in commemoration rather, of the Yuletide, Lagos-Abuja Rivers Fund seekers throng parks amid stampede fears. The fear of a stampede still very, very much with Nigerians. But significantly, Sokoto villagers accidentally killed as the Nigerian Airforce bombs Lakurawa terrorists. Igo, the problem of innocent people being killed by so-called friendly fire, or should we call it, what was that expression again? When, you get struck in an operation meant to destroy the enemy, but also friends get killed. I think it's called collateral damage, isn't it?
Well, I don't know what to believe at this point, because I followed the report yesterday, and I listened to the reaction of the Nigerian Air Force spokesman, who said that it is the Lakurawa terrorists that that are pushing the other narrative that villagers were bombed, and that they conducted precise strike on Lakurawa locations, credible intelligence, conducted through ISRO, that is their intelligence recognizers aircraft, and all of that. So, for me, looking at the two narratives we have, the villagers are saying, some of the villagers are saying that they lost about 10 members of the community, and the Air Force is saying, look, anybody at the place had been evacuated prior to the airstrike, and that anybody who is in that location should be a terrorist, a member of the Lakurawa community. The place is close to Surame Forest. That's Surame Forest, a notorious habitat for terror, particularly that in Lakurawa. They said that is really where they are located. And so the strike, for me, I think I want to go with the Air Force. Yeah, if I were to be a member of that village, that community, and I see that terrorists are operating there, I should relocate. I should move away from there, because that becomes an environment for military activity.
But sometimes it's actually very difficult, because with experience from what happened with Boko Haram, the terrorists actually take over the village and would tend most of the time to use the innocent villagers as human shield. Of course, terrorists don't wear uniforms unless if they're setting up an ambush on the road to make travelers believe that they are military personnel. Yeah. So you can't tell a terrorist from a non-terrorist. So when that happens, and the Air Force, based on credible intelligence, would tend to try to strike targets where terrorists are identified. Now, the question is, isn't it easy to identify a forest and distinguish it from a village? That's the question. You know that they are found or they are hiding in the forest, and then you hit the village knowing that innocent Nigerians are staying there. You talked about relocation, but sometimes it's not that easy, because they'll make sure that everybody is there so they can hide behind them.
Yeah, you see, what you are saying, well, it's to some extent is okay, but you see, what the Nigerian Armed Forces is confronted with is asymmetric warfare. In an asymmetric combat environment, it is usually there will be collateral damage. There will be. See, I want to relate this to what is happening in Gaza, because I'm following the Israeli, Hamas war very closely. Each time I watch the optics, the visuals coming from Al Jazeera and some of these stations, you find that they say, that the Israeli armed forces have killed about 45,000 Palestinians. Now, they do not tell you that amongst these 45,000 that have been killed, the Hamas members were there. Each time you look at the casualties, just see people in mufti, in civilian dresses. So who are these Hamas operatives that are firing back at the Israelis? Who are these Hamas operatives that also attacked Israeli communities on October 7 last year? So really, if you are fighting asymmetric warfare, civilians really sometimes can become casualties. They can become victims. That is not to say that the Air Force should not carry out due diligence before they conduct their strikes, because whether we like it or not, from what we hear, most of the casualties are women and children.
Very,
so
very unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. It is regrettable, but again, it's also a lesson going forward that people living in close proximity to terrorists should find a way, to relocate from those environments with the support of government, because the government should be able to provide the necessary logistics to relocate such individuals. Yes, they use them as human shield, but really this is what we are confronted with, and you cannot entirely blame the security forces.
Oh, very, very unfortunate turn of events there, but hopefully the Nigerian military authorities will take note of this so that we avoid further controversy regarding their operations, particularly in areas that are very close to human habitation. We still have that story. Airstrike kills 10 Sokoto villagers in the Daily Trust. But still in the Daily Trust, telcos may hike call data tariffs early next year. Well, Igor, everything seems to be going up, the prices of goods and services, and now we may have to pay more for data and call credit. And next year, I mean, really, what does this portend for Nigerians? I mean, petrol going high, food going high, and now the cost of making calls and surfing the web.
Well, this is tragic. As I was driving down to the studio this morning, you could see the despondency, in the nation's capital. The streets are empty. Vehicular traffic is at its lowest ever. Well, this is my first Christmas in Abuja. I thought I wanted to stay back and also experience what the nation's capital looks like during Christmas. And I'm really surprised that, in fact, yesterday there was Christmas Day. The number of calls that I got on my phone for help, for support. Oh dear. A lot, just more than 50 calls. These are some of the individuals that were calling me yesterday are ordinarily people who should be able to fend for themselves.
Yes.
But what that just tells me is that we are seriously in dire strait in this country. When we say Nigerians are hungry, Nigerians are poor, it's like belittling the situation. It is much, much worse than that. So if the telcos are saying that from January next year we're going to pay more for communication, that's just pushing the people to their tether's end. It is going to affect more in terms of productivity. It's going to affect productivity. It's going to affect, because now that most people cannot even afford fuel, because before you could just drive to visit somebody, you could just drive to so we rely more on making phone calls, on data calls, or even sending messages and all. But now if that is going to be there's more cost coming your way next year, then again what that means is that is going to affect human activity, the activity by Nigerians. This is well, I'm really very surprised this morning. I just saw the president has in his media chat. I listened to him very well. He's asking every Nigerian to have hope that sometimes next year it will be better. But is it the dead people that we experience? Is it dead Nigerians that will enjoy the benefits of whatever policy that the government is putting in place? Something urgent has to be done, and the time to do it is now. Telcos should just share their increase. DSTV is increasing. Everybody is raising their prices. Something just have to give for Nigerians to have a breather.
Everything is increasing, and the income has remained static. I remember
there's no even income. What kind of income? It's $40 for 30 days.
We had that conversation with the labor unions, and they said when they negotiated the 70,000 naira minimum wage with the government, they negotiated based on the realities of the time. And at that time petrol was selling for less than 600 naira per liter then. So they felt 70,000 naira would balance things out. But now, with the increase in the prices of petroleum products and even food, it means that the gains of the increase in the minimum wage have been practically wiped out.
No, absolutely, it's been wiped out. And when NSC was engaging in that negotiation with government, I knew that they were going to, at the end of the day, hold the shorter end of the stick, and that is what has happened. The government was just simply smarter. When you could see that the negotiation was dragging and dragging, and I would have expected the negotiators on the part of the Labour Congress to have envisaged, the spiraling inflation at the time, and you could look at the economic indices that the factors were not going to remain the same. The variables were not good. The economic variables were not going to remain the same. So, confronted with those realities, you then agreed for 70,000 naira, and then you come back to say, oh, the government, had changed us. So, I don't want to go back to negotiation and adapt. Well, the government does not need the NSC to negotiate with them, because the president, I also heard the president also using that as part of his scorecard, that he has increased minimum wage. For me, I think poverty has just been increased.
Interesting.
It's not minimum wage.
Well then, still in the Daily Trust is the other headline. Christians, at Christmas rather, that's the Christian Association of Nigeria, urges Tinubu to reduce food prices. Well, can food prices be reduced based on presidential fiat?
Well, food prices is a product of economic variables. Who are those involved in farming? Is it the government that is involved? How do you reduce the price of a commodity that you have no control over? Adapt if the government has control over food prices, whether they can. If the president himself has said, because he was asked the question what is he going to do to intervene in food prices, he said really that market forces will determine that. What he tends to do is to flood the space with enough food, and then when food comes into the space, that will drive down the cost of food items. Well, but for me, what I think is at the root of the spiraling food crisis we have in the country is fuel prices. Once fuel prices go down, a lot of these everyday elements, the consumables will naturally go down. Prices of electricity has to go down because it's energy. If telcos are saying they want to increase cost next year, call and data cost next year, it is energy. Most of the telcos are running generators across their base stations. So the government must do so well, must take deliberate steps, to reduce energy costs, because energy subsidy and energy security all over the world is something that government really get. Whether it's in the US, it's in Britain, Western developed economies, they subsidize energy costs. So you cannot just by fiat. You took it out in 2023 to say fuel subsidy was gone, and so what are the strategies put in place? Absolutely. As I came into this place, I saw buses, Nigerian students, rights for Nigerian students and some free trade. That is just like a slap in the wrist. It's not going to do anything.
Absolutely.
To deal with the situation.
Well then, on the foreign scene, it seems the Princess of Wales, Kate, is dominating the headlines, and of course, there are many other stories, but significantly, it is King Charles's message to the doctors who have been taking care of him. In the Daily Mail, Charles, my heartfelt gratitude to selfless doctors and nurses. Well, he did thank the doctors who took care of him when, he's been battling with cancer. And in addition to the gratitude to the medical personnel, he also has a message of peace for the conflict areas in the world, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and also parts of the African continent. Well, an ailing King Charles III also calling for peace across the world. Well,
you don't expect anything less. Here was a man whose life was hanging in the balance, and as it is, he's been able to stabilize a bit, and so he owes his gratitude definitely to the doctors and nurses who stepped in. And the environment in UK, if you compare that to what doctors and nurses earn here, Peter, so but in the UK, they are well remunerated and they put in their best. You could see if you have cancer in Nigeria, it's almost like a death knell, So we appreciate God that the heir apparent, as it will be, is appreciating the doctors and nurses. It's something good, and it resonates with King Charles also, who is also spreading a message of peace. The Pope himself also did the same thing, whether it is Ukraine, whether it is Sudan, across the world, where Gaza and all of that, where there is conflict, he's saying people should lay down their weapons for peace to reign. Which for me, I think that it resonates with most people in the world, that there's need for peace. There's too much conflict in the world. At Christmas, it is a time to preach peace.
It is a message of peace and goodwill to all mankind.
Absolutely.
At this point, we'll say a very big thank you to Mr. Igo Ekerega, a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, who has joined us for today's newspaper review. Thank you so much.